sourceling aura of kingly command and fatherly authority that overawed his subjects and gave his enemies pause. Midway in his reign, darker qualities of mind emerged in Henry, growing stronger as he was continually thwarted in his aims, and in the end eclipsing his attractive nature. The radiant hero of the Battle of the Spurs became the troubled, anxious ruler of the mid-1520s, harried in mind by the fear of divine vengeance, then the fearsome, murderous king of the 1530s, whose wrath was fatal to those about him. The Catholic Church puts at 50 the number of martyrs whose deaths he brought about by execution or starvation. Several wives, at least a dozen blood relatives, and a similar number of one-time counselors and friends lengthened the list of victims. By the 1540s, as Henry entered his 50s, he had become a monstrous figure to his people, an inhuman tyrant of mythic proportions whose valor and integrity had dissolved under the corroding influence of adultery, sacrilege, and bloodlust. In actuality, Henry was by this time an aging colossus plagued by agonizing pains in his legs, soured by domestic misfortunes, and overburdened by governmental labors. The inner compass that had guided him to overturn the old order of English society, to break away from the Roman Church, destroy the monasteries, and undertake the reshaping of religious belief, had misled him, and he suffered in consequence. Yet, in his last years, Henry rose above the limitations of his age and bulk to personally undertake the conquest of France, and displayed again the matchless vitality that all his life made him the envy of younger men. And it was that vitality which fueled both his hearty bonhomie and his raging irritability that made Henry the object of helpless fascination. He seemed to know everything, to be everywhere at once. There is not a single brute anywhere which he does not hear among the first, be it false or true, even to little private matters, which princes care but little to hear. The French ambassador Marillac wrote of Henry. He speaks as if he knew not only the kings and lords, but their servants, forces, places, designs, and occasions, both far and near, as if he had men all over the world who did nothing but write to him. The Milanese ambassador was more succinct. Henry, he wrote, wants to have his feet in 1,000 shoes. My indebtedness to J.J. Scarisbrick's elegant and exemplary political biography of Henry VIII will be evident to informed readers. The bibliography at the end of this book acknowledges many of the other historical works I've used. But my chief resource has been the treasure house of 16th century letters, dispatches, and official documents collected in the calendars of Spanish, Venetian, and Milanese state papers, and in the letters and papers of Henry VIII. One researcher has estimated that the tens of thousands of pages in these collections contain 1 million separate details about Henry. To construct a composite image of the king from these slivers of his reality has been my primary task. One more influence must be acknowledged. When 16 years ago I applied for graduate study at Columbia University, I hoped to work there with Garrett Mattingly, whose splendid dramatic account of the Armada I had read with great enthusiasm. Professor Mattingly died before I enrolled at Columbia, but I have been a student of his books ever since, and a passage from his Catherine of Aragon has stayed with me during the 18 months I have spent in the company of Great Harry. In describing him, Mattingly referred to the inwardness of that majestic childishness, that absurd mixture of naivete and cunning, boldness and poltroonery, vindictive cruelty, and wayward, almost irresistible charm. As a brief sketch of a multifaceted character, these 23 words are unimprovable. Carolly Erickson, Berkeley, California, January 31st, 1979. Part 1. Young Harry.